Rolling for Scones by Jill Cooper. Chapter 1. Through the charred doorway of Emberhaven Lodge, Kaela stepped on ash-covered floorboards. The once vibrant tavern stood as a hollow shell, timber frames blackened and splintered. Whispers of enchantment trapped in the air like ghosts through the fallen beams. The main room, where laughter had once echoed, lay shrouded in soot and silence. Polished tables now resembled darkened relics, their surfaces marred by the fire's cruel grip. The massive hearth, once a beacon of warmth, gaped open like a mouth that had forgotten how to smile. The air held a lingering scent of smoke, yet underneath it all, she caught hints of vanilla and cinnamon, ghostly reminders of the bustling tavern this place had once been. Beside her, Cinder's tail swished back and forth, the hearth dragon's scales casting a warm glow in the dim interior. Now, as you can see, Mary Halffoot gestured expansively, her enthusiasm undampened by the devastation. The main room still has excellent bones. Those support beams are solid ironwood, and look. She pointed to faint lines etched into the ceiling crossbeams. The protection runes are still intact. Kaela's enchanted scroll hummed against her hip, updating with a soft chime. She pulled it out, watching as golden text materialized. New quest, buy Emberhaven Lodge at auction for the new Dragon Roast Tavern, a home for Kaela and Cinder, plus a meeting place for all of those in need in Embervale. Her scroll was being a little pushy, wasn't it? Cinder's nose twitched as she sniffed the air, her ember-red scales shimmering with interest. She huffed softly and nodded, her tail swishing with greater enthusiasm as she prowled the perimeter of the room. The way her spaded tail tip glowed suggested she sensed something promising about the property's magical potential. The ley lines must be far more potent than expected, especially considering the extensive fire damage. Kaela pressed her palm against the nearest wall, closing her eyes. The magic thrummed beneath her fingers, warm and inviting despite the building's sorry state. I feel it too. It's like it's waiting for something. Oh, you should see the pantry. Mary bustled ahead, her voice echoing off the soot-stained walls. Ilara's enchanted shelving system is still in place, though it could use a good cleaning, of course. As they followed Mary deeper into the building, Kaela's boots scattered something across the floor. Not ash this time, but a glittering powder that sparked with residual magic. She knelt to examine it closer, but Cinder beat her to it, sniffing delicately. Kaela dragged her finger through it. Soft as snow. Vanilla sugar. Enhanced with crystallized sunlight. Ilara was known for her dawn-touched pastries. The pantry door creaked open, revealing rows of shelves that seemed to stretch further back than the building's exterior suggested. Despite the layer of soot coating everything, Kaela could see the intricate runic patterns carved into each shelf. Her fingers tingled with possibility. These weren't just storage spaces, but magical amplifiers designed to preserve and enhance ingredients. Now, careful where you step, Mary cautioned, picking her way through fallen debris. The auction notice just went up this morning, so we haven't had chance to… Oh. A charred piece of parchment fluttered down from one of the upper shelves, disturbed by their movement. Kaela caught it before it could hit the ground. Through the burn marks, she could make out elegant handwriting. Warned me about Thornhaven's threats, but I won't be intimidated. My recipes are my own, and if they think they can force me to… The rest was lost to fire damage. Kaela exchanged a significant look with Cinder, whose orange eyes had narrowed to slits. Thornhaven? Kaela asked, carefully folding the fragment. The competing tavern across the kingdom? Oh, there was quite a rivalry, Mary said, wringing her hands. But surely that's all in the past now. Shall we see the kitchen? The hearth is simply magnificent, even if it needs some attention. Kaela traced her fingers along the burnt scrap of parchment, a prickle of unease running down her spine. Thornhaven Tavern had a reputation throughout the realm. Sleek, upscale, and ruthlessly competitive. Their owner, Baron Thornhaven, was rumored to have connections with the royal treasury that went beyond mere business. The kitchen is just through here, Mary Halffoot continued, seemingly oblivious to Kaela's reaction. As I mentioned, the hearth is truly exceptional. Kaela tucked the parchment into her pocket, making a mental note to examine it more closely later. The scroll at her hip chimed again, updating her quest log with a sidebar note. Investigate possible connection between Thornhaven Tavern and Emberhaven Fire. As they stepped into the kitchen, Kayla's breath caught. Despite the damage, she could see the potential immediately. The hearth dominated the far wall. It wasn't just a cooking area, but a true magical focal point. Its stonework was inlaid with delicate fire runes that, even covered in soot, still pulsed with faint amber light. Cinder darted forward, her wings half extended in excitement. She circled the hearth 3 times, sniffing and prodding at its stones, before settling herself directly in the center. The dragon gave a contented chirp, her scales brightening to match the dormant runes around her. "I think she approves," Kaela said, unable to keep the smile from her voice. "Well, hearth dragons do know best about these things," Mary replied with a knowing nod. "This one was crafted by Embervale's finest stonemasons over a century ago. The design channels the underlying ley line directly into the cooking space." Kaela approached, kneeling beside Cinder. She placed her palm against the warm stone, and her magic responded immediately. A pleasant tingle spread up her arm as the fire within her connected with the hearth's latent energy. For a brief moment, the runes flared brighter, and Kaela caught a fleeting vision. The kitchen alive with activity, pastries rising in magical ovens, coffee beans grinding themselves, and at the center of it all, a fire that never died. "I've never felt a connection like this," Kaela murmured, pulling her hand back reluctantly. "It's perfect." "Ilara was quite the fire mage herself," Mary said, "though nowhere near your caliber, of course. She always said this hearth had a soul of its own." Cinder huffed in agreement, sending a small puff of flame into the air. The smoke formed a miniature dragon shape before dissipating against the ceiling. Kaela rose and turned in a slow circle, taking in the rest of the kitchen. Though damaged, the bones were indeed spacious countertops of solid stone, cabinets that, once cleaned, would provide ample storage for her ingredients. Near the back wall, a large window overlooked what must have once been a small herb garden, now overgrown but salvageable. Her scroll chimed again, and she glanced down to see her stats flickering with a momentary boost. Strength, 10 + 1 from Hearth Connection. Dexterity, 14. Constitution, 15. Intelligence, 12. Wisdom, 10 + 2 from Property Recognition. Charisma, 18. Mary cleared her throat. "Now, I should mention that there are other interested parties. Baron Thornhaven's representatives have already made inquiries." Kayla's momentary joy dimmed. "Of course they have," she muttered. "The auction is set for the day after tomorrow. With the damage, the reserve price is quite reasonable, but—" Mary hesitated. "But Thornhaven will bid high," Kaela finished for her. "He does seem particularly determined to acquire this property," Mary admitted, "though I can't imagine why. His establishment in the royal quarter is doing splendidly." A shiver ran through the floorboards beneath them, subtle enough that Mary didn't seem to notice. Kaela felt it, though, and so did Cinder, whose head snapped up, eyes narrowing. Something in the building's foundations was responding to their presence, or perhaps to the mention of Thornhaven's interest. Kaela moved back to the hearth, pretending to examine it more closely while she whispered to Cinder, "Did you feel that?" The dragon nodded once, her tail twitching with nervous energy. "There's something here," Kaela murmured. "Something important. Maybe that's what Thornhaven is after." Mary was now rummaging through her satchel. "I have the auction details here somewhere. The minimum bid starts at 500 gold pieces, though I expect it'll go much higher." 500 gold pieces. Kaela had 412 saved from her time with the Royal Guard. Not nearly enough if Thornhaven was serious about bidding. She would need help. "Is there an attic or cellar?" Kaela asked, trying to keep her voice casual. "Oh, yes, both actually. The cellar entrance is through that door there, though I'm afraid it flooded during the firefighting efforts. The attic should be accessible from the hallway. Kaela nodded, already formulating a plan. I'd like to place a provisional bid now, if that's possible. Mary's eyebrows shot up in surprise. Well, yes, I suppose we could arrange that. It would secure your place at the auction at least. As Mary busied herself with the paperwork, Kaela knelt beside Cinder once more. We need to get Dana and Gareth here, she whispered, before the auction. There's more going on than just a property sale. Cinder chirped in agreement, her tail flicking excitedly at the mention of their friends. Kaela pulled out her scroll and quickly scribbled a message. The runes flared briefly before fading, sending her words across the magical network to her companions. Need you both at Emberhaven Lodge. Found potential new home base for my new bakery tavern, but something strange is happening. Thornhaven involved. Come tonight after dark. Bring tools. Kay. Her scroll vibrated almost immediately with Dana's response. Ooh, sneaking, breaking, and entering? Count me in. We'll bring lockpicks and my +2 stealth boots. Dash D. Garrett's reply came moments later, his concern evident even through the written words. I'm helping with the newbies at the Adventure Guild. I get off right before sundown. We'll come directly after. Be careful until then. Dash G. Kaela smiled, tucking the scroll away. With their help, she might just have a chance. She turned back to Mary, who was still sorting through her paperwork. One last question, Kaela said. Do you know exactly the fire started? Mary paused, a shadow crossing her face. That's the strangest thing. The investigation determined it was magical in nature, but not accidental. Someone deliberately targeted this place. And Alara, the previous owner? Missing, Mary said, her voice dropping to a near whisper. Since the night of the fire. No one has seen her since. Well, maybe she should have led with that. Chapter 2. Kaela spread the plaid tablecloth across a patch of lush grass, smoothing out the wrinkles with practiced hands. Ember Park sprawled around her, alive with color and sound. Children chasing each other between flowering bushes, couples strolling hand in hand beneath the shade of ancient oaks, and a group of apprentice mages practicing minor cantrips that sent sparks of harmless light dancing above the meadow. Perfect for an afternoon of research and pastries. What do you think, Cinder? Good spot? Kaela asked, setting down her enchanted picnic basket. The hearth dragon chirped in approval, her ember-red scales shimmering as she scampered around the perimeter of the tablecloth, her tail leaving faint glowing trails in her wake. Cinder paused, her nose twitching at a vibrant blue butterfly that fluttered past, before darting after it in a playful chase. Kaela smiled, the tension in her shoulders easing slightly as she watched her companion's antics. Just don't set anything on fire this time, she called, though her tone held nothing but affection. She turned her attention to the picnic basket, unlocking its enchanted clasp with a whispered word. The lid sprang open, releasing a swirl of aromatic steam and revealing an assortment of freshly baked goods, each emanating a subtle magical glow. Mana-infused croissants dusted with cinnamon, strength-enhancing scones dotted with berries, and molten chocolate tarts that radiated warmth from their centers. Her experiments from the morning finally ready for tasting. After arranging the treats on a plate, Kaela settled cross-legged on the tablecloth and pulled out her enchanted scroll. The parchment unfurled with a soft hiss, glowing text materializing as she tapped a rune labeled Historical Codex, Embervale Nobility. Let's see what we can find out about our competition, she murmured, tapping the search rune and entering Baron Thornhaven. The scroll flickered, then filled with text and images. Kaela began to read aloud, partly to organize her thoughts and partly because Cinder seemed to enjoy the sound of her voice. Baron Ambrosius Thornhaven, current head of House Thornhaven, she read. Ascended to his title following the mysterious disappearance of his elder brother 15 years ago. Interesting. She took a bite of a mana-infused croissant, feeling a pleasant tingle of energy spread through her fingertips. Expanded family holdings from a single vineyard to multiple businesses across Embervale, including the prestigious Thornhaven Tavern in the Royal Quarter. known for his shrewd business acumen and ruthless negotiation tactics. Cinder paused her butterfly chase, her head cocked toward Kaela as if listening. The dragon's amber eyes narrowed slightly. Notable quote, Kaela continued. In the game of power, it's either eat or be eaten. Charming fellow, she added dryly. No wonder he's after Emberhaven Lodge. She scrolled further, frowning. Frequently employs legal but questionable methods to acquire desirable properties throughout the city. Has connections to the Royal Treasury Department, allowing him privileged access to auction information. Kayla's fingers tightened around the scroll. Well, that explains how he always seems to know about properties before they hit the market. A shadow passed over her face as she continued reading. The Baron has been involved in at least 7 property disputes in the past year alone, all of which were resolved in his favor following unexpected abandonments by the opposing parties. Cinder returned to Kayla's side, sensing her shift in mood. The hearth dragon nudged against her hand, her scales warm against Kayla's skin. Absently, Kaela stroked the dragon's head, her other hand rising to touch the fire opal pendant hanging at her throat. This isn't just about a tavern location, she murmured. If Alara was threatened. Her voice trailed off as memories flickered unbidden, flames leaping higher than they should, screams echoing through stone corridors, her own magic spiraling beyond control. The pendant grew warm beneath her fingertips. I'm not in the Queen's service anymore, she reminded herself firmly. This isn't my responsibility. But even as she thought it, she knew she was lying to herself. Some instincts ran too deep. Cinder chirped softly, bringing Kaela back to the present. The dragon's gentle headbutt against her palm was both comfort and question. I'm okay, Kaela reassured her, though her fingers lingered on the pendant a moment longer. Just thinking. Her contemplation was interrupted by a cheerful voice calling from across the park. I heard a fire mage was treating herself to goodies. Mind if we join in on the feast? Kaela looked up to see 2 familiar figures approaching. Finn, the bard who often played at local taverns, his lute slung casually over one shoulder, and Myrtle, the herbalist whose shop supplied half of Embervale with remedies for everything from sniffles to hangovers. They were regulars at every tavern in town, earning them the good-natured nickname of NPCs, non-participating coffee drinkers, always present but rarely involved in the day's adventures. Of course, Kaela called back, waving them over with a genuine smile. I've got plenty. As they approached, Cinder abandoned her latest butterfly pursuit to inspect the newcomers, circling them with playful curiosity. Hello to you too, little spark, Finn said, carefully stepping around the dragon as he settled on the tablecloth. Keeping your mage out of trouble? Cinder puffed a small cloud of smoke in response, making Myrtle laugh as she sat down across from Kaela. Your basket's enchanted, the herbalist noted, eyeing the pastries with professional interest. Preservation runes? And temperature control, Kaela confirmed, offering them each a plate. Try the tarts first. I've been experimenting. Myrtle selected a molten berry tart, her eyebrows rising as she took a bite. Magic shimmered briefly around her, and her scroll chimed softly from her pocket. Is this a willpower enhancement? She asked, clearly impressed. And why didn't you tell us you were also a baker? This is exceptional. Kaela felt her cheeks warm with pleasure. Just a hobby I'm thinking of turning into something more, she admitted. The tarts give +2 wisdom for about an hour. Perfect for decision-making meetings or high-stakes card games. Finn had already devoured a cinnamon croissant and was reaching for a scone. I can feel my mana regeneration increasing, he said, delighted. This would be perfect before performances. That's the idea, Kaela said, relaxing into the conversation. Different pastries for different needs. As they ate, Finn regaled them with the latest tavern gossip. The apprentice wizard who'd accidentally turned himself purple, and the warrior who'd challenged the local champion to a drinking contest only to fall asleep face first in his soup. And then there's old Bertram, Finn chuckled, strumming a lazy chord on his lute. Still sits at the same table every day from opening until close, never ordering more than 2 ales. He claims he's observing the narrative, Myrtle added with a snort. Whatever that means. NPC, Kaela said fondly. The backbone of every tavern. Their laughter was interrupted by a triumphant chirp. Cinder bounded back to their picnic spot, delicately clutching a shimmering blue butterfly in her tiny claws. The dragon looked immensely proud of herself until she tried to show her prize to Kaela and accidentally squeezed too tightly. The butterfly escaped in a panicked flutter, leaving Cinder looking comically bewildered, her claws still poised as if holding her prize. The entire group burst into laughter, even Cinder making a chuffing sound that was her version of draconic amusement. As their laughter faded, Kaela noticed the lengthening shadows across the park. The afternoon was waning, golden light filtering through the trees as the sun began its descent toward the horizon. Soon it would be time to meet Dana and Gareth at Emberhaven Lodge. But for now, with pastries, friends, and the warm presence of Cinder beside her, she could enjoy this moment of peace, even with the shadow of Baron Thornhaven's machinations looming in the background. Chapter 3. Moonlight painted the skeletal remains of Emberhaven Lodge in ghostly silver as Kaela approached. Cinder perched on her shoulder, tail wrapped protectively around Kayla's neck. The dragon's warmth a stark contrast to the chill that settled over the abandoned property. The tavern's charred facade loomed before them, its once welcoming windows now gaping like hollow eye sockets. Where cheerful chatter and the scent of pastries once filled the air, now only silence and the acrid smell of old ash lingered. It's sad, Kaela murmured to Cinder, who chirped softly in agreement. But I can feel it, you know? There's still magic here. It can be warm, inviting, just what Embervale needs. She took a deep breath. Just what we need. Cinder chirped in agreement and flapped her mighty wings. As they drew closer, Kaela spotted movement at one of the side windows. A small gnome precariously balanced on what appeared to be a rickety stool, purple pigtails bobbing as she peered through the glass. Dana? Kaela called out, unable to suppress a smile. The figure jerked violently, arms pinwheeling. Sweet mother of... The rest of Dana's curse was lost as she toppled backward, stool and all, landing with a spectacular crash and a puff of disturbed ash. Kaela rushed forward, but Dana was already sitting up, glasses askew and pigtails pointing in different directions. Her t-shirt, visible under her leather vest, read, "I fought the lag and the lag won." You could have warned me, Dana huffed, adjusting her glasses. I nearly lost 5 years off my already constantly shortened lifespan. Ah, Dana, she never changed. Not that Kaela wanted her to. At least now that they weren't working at the castle together, it was easier to take her in small doses. No pun intended. Or maybe the pun was intended. Cinder leapt from Kaela's shoulder, bounding toward Dana with excited chirps. Before Dana could protest, the dragon pounced, enthusiastically licking her face with a tongue that sparkled with tiny embers. Ugh, Cinder, yes, hi. Enough. Dana spluttered, gently pushing the dragon back. Despite her protests, her fingers scratched affectionately behind Cinder's horns. At least someone's happy to see me, even if she expresses it by exfoliating my face with her sandpaper tongue. Kaela helped Dana to her feet, brushing ash from her friend's shoulders. What exactly were you doing? Reconnaissance, Dana said, straightening her leather vest with dignity. Or breaking and entering. Semantics, really. She gestured toward the tavern. The real question is why Miss High and Mighty Royal Fire Mage is suddenly interested in a burnt-out tavern. Slumming it with us common folk now? The gnome crossed her arms and tapped her foot as she impatiently waited for an answer. The teasing masked genuine curiosity, and Kaela felt a flicker of vulnerability as she answered honestly. I'm thinking of buying it, she admitted, starting fresh. The castle. It's not where I belong anymore. I want to build something that's mine. She hesitated, then added, I want to make this into a new coffee and pastry tavern. something that brings people together. Dana's violet eyes widened. Seriously? You ditched the fancy robes and fireballs for coffee beans and flour? The fireballs might still make appearances, Kaela said with a small smile, especially when dealing with difficult customers. Dana studied her face, then nodded slowly. Well, it's about time you did something you actually enjoy. Though I'll miss having you at the castle to give me all the tea on what's happening beyond our walls. The new guy doesn't understand that sometimes they just need a juicy bit of gossip. The wistfulness in Dana's voice made Kayla's chest tighten. I'll still be around, she promised, just serving pastries instead of the crown. Dana brightened. Speaking of which, any chance your menu will include those moonberry tarts you made for the winter solstice ball? The ones that made everyone's hair glow in the dark? That was an accident, Kaela protested, then laughed. But yes, probably. They turned toward the burnt tavern, its silhouette stark against the night sky. Shall we? Kaela asked, gesturing to the door. Dana nodded. I have my dull butter knives if we need them. I am a rogue, after all. She gave them a twirl and watched as they clattered to the ground. Don't mention this. Ever. Inside, moonlight filtered through the damaged roof, illuminating a scene of devastation. Charred tables lay on their sides, the once polished bar was blackened and split, and debris crunched underfoot as they entered. Yet despite the destruction, Kaela could sense the potential. The bones of the place remained strong. Definitely magical fire, Dana observed, crouching to examine a patch of floor where the wood had melted rather than burned. Regular fire doesn't do this. Cinder prowled the perimeter, nose twitching, occasionally pausing to paw at spots where the magic seemed strongest. Someone wanted this place gone, Kaela said quietly, running her fingers along the bar where protection runes still faintly glowed. But why? And what happened to Alara? Dana rose, dusting off her hands. Baron Thornhaven seems like the obvious suspect. Man's as subtle as a dragon in a china shop. No offense, Cinder. The dragon snorted a small puff of smoke in response. The question is proving it, Kaela said, frowning, and finding Alara before... A creak from the doorway made them both spin around. A tall, broad-shouldered figure stood silhouetted against the night, his familiar outline instantly recognizable. Sorry I'm late, Gareth said, stepping into the moonlight that streamed through the damaged roof. His hands were on his hips and he puffed his chest out as he took the standard hero stance. Even his teeth seemed to gleam with a shine. Had to stop a bar fight at the Grumpy Griffin. Again. He offered a lopsided grin. The recovering paladin never rests. Despite the gravity of the situation, Kaela felt her lips quirk upward. Glad you could join us. Gareth surveyed the tavern's remains, his expression growing serious. This is worse than I expected. You really think the Baron's behind it? Found a half-burned note earlier today, Kaela explained, showing him the charred paper. It mentioned threats from Thornhaven Tavern. Gareth's brow furrowed as he examined it. Wouldn't put it past him. He's gotten away with throwing his weight around for too long. And Alara's still missing, Dana added, poking at a pile of debris with her foot. No one's seen her since the fire. I know. I looked. She made the best peppermint mocha. What's a peppermint mocha? Gareth asked. Dana glowered. I'm going to pretend you just didn't say that, she muttered with the intensity of a giant ogre. Kaela pulled out her enchanted scroll, its surface glowing softly in the dim tavern. With a practiced motion, she swiped her finger across it, bringing up her quest log. A new entry shimmered into existence. Investigate the Emberhaven mystery. Uncover the truth behind the fire. Locate Alara. Counter Baron Thornhaven's plans. She held her breath as she tapped to accept the quest, feeling the familiar rush as magic sealed her commitment. The scroll chimed softly, then displayed. Quest accepted. The auction's less than a day away, Dana pointed out, peering over Kayla's shoulder at the scroll. If we're going to find anything that might stop the Baron from getting his hands on this place, we need to move fast. Kaela stepped deeper into the tavern's remains, her fingers trailing along the charred walls. The ley line energy hummed beneath her feet, weak but persistent. Even damaged, this place called to her. We should split up, Gareth suggested, his voice echoing in the hollow space. Cover more ground before dawn. Good idea, Kaela said. I'll check the kitchen area. That's where I found the note. Dana nodded. I'll take what's left of the common room. Maybe Alara left something for regulars to find. As they separated, Kaela made her way toward the kitchen with Cinder padding softly behind her. The hearth dragon was uncharacteristically quiet, her scales dimmed to a deep burgundy rather than their usual vibrant ember red. Something was off. You okay, girl? Kaela whispered, crouching to scratch behind Cinder's horns. Cinder snorted, a small plume of smoke escaping her nostrils. She pawed anxiously at the floor, then suddenly sneezed. A proper dragon sneeze that sent a burst of flame across the floor, scattering ash and debris. Cinder! Kaela scolded, batting away the smoke. But as the ash cleared, something caught her eye. Where Cinder's flames had licked the floor, the charred boards had shifted, revealing a gleam of metal beneath. Guys, Kaela called, her voice hushed but urgent. I think Cinder found something. Dana and Gareth hurried over as Kaela knelt, brushing away more debris. With each sweep of her hand, more of the metal became visible. A circular ring embedded in the floor, its handle blackened but intact. A trapdoor. Well, that's not suspicious at all, Dana deadpanned, adjusting her glasses. Her t-shirt, now visible in the faint light, read, Patch notes, Dana saves the day again. Gareth dropped to one knee beside Kaela, his shoulder brushing hers as they both leaned in to examine the discovery. The brief contact sent a flutter through Kayla's chest that she purposefully ignored. Look at the symbol, Gareth murmured, pointing to an etching in the metal. The mark was intricate. A serpent coiled around what appeared to be a stylized flame, its tail forming a perfect circle around the design. That's not Alara's mark, Kaela said, frowning. I've seen her signature on pastry boxes. She used a whisk crossed with a wand. Dana peered closer. It almost looks like... Wait, isn't that similar to Baron Thornhaven's family crest? The serpent part, at least? Kayla's blood ran cold. You're right. His pendant had a serpent on it when I saw him in the market. Gareth's jaw tightened. So Thornhaven had a secret entrance to Alara's tavern. That can't be good. Cinder suddenly hissed, backing away from the trapdoor. Her scales flickered erratically, shifting from deep red to an alarming orange-yellow. She circled nervously, her tail lashing against the floor. Something's wrong with her, Dana said, stepping back. Kaela could feel it too, a strange disturbance in the magic surrounding them. The air felt charged, almost oppressive, like the moment before a lightning strike. It's the ley line, Kaela realized, her fire opal pendant growing warm against her skin. The connection here is unstable. It's reacting to us, or to something else. Without warning, her pendant flared with blinding intensity. The surge of energy coursed through Kaela, neither painful nor pleasant, but powerful enough to make her gasp. The light from her pendant cast long shadows across the tavern, illuminating a section of wall they hadn't noticed before. When the light dimmed, Gareth was at her side, steady hands on her shoulders. Are you all right? Kaela nodded, touched by the concern in his eyes. I'm fine. But look. On the far wall, faint glowing script had appeared, words written in ancient runes that pulsed with fading magic. Beware those who seek to claim the lost. Kaela translated, moving closer. For in their greed lies the seed of destruction. Below the inscription was a small image, a serpent nearly identical to the one on the trapdoor and Baron Thornhaven's pendant. This isn't coincidence, Kaela said, her voice hardening. That symbol, the trapdoor, the threat in Alara's note, they all point to Thornhaven. Dana whistled low. So what's the play here? Break into his fancy tavern? Challenge him to a magical duel at dawn? Gareth shook his head. We need more information first. This could all be circumstantial. I need to speak with him directly, Kaela decided, her mind made up. Before the auction tomorrow. If he thinks I know something about this place, he might slip up. Gareth's expression darkened. That's dangerous, Kaela. The Baron isn't just wealthy. He's connected. If he did have something to do with Alara's disappearance. I can handle myself, she replied, but softened when she saw the genuine worry in his eyes. But I won't do anything reckless. I promise. Their gazes held for a moment too long, years of unspoken feelings suspended between them. Gareth cleared his throat and looked away first, his hand dropping from her shoulder. At least let me come with you, he offered. No, Kaela said. We need to approach this from all angles. You have contacts all over Embervale. Adventurers, merchants, guards. Someone might know something about what happened that night. Dana adjusted her glasses thoughtfully. And I should get back to the castle. The Royal Archives have records on every property transaction in Embervale going back centuries. Plus, I can check the Enchanted Scrolls database for any mentions of secret passages or underground chambers in this district. Her expression turned mischievous as she added, being the castle's tech support has its perks. No one questions why I'm poking around in the scroll archives at odd hours. Then we have a plan, Kaela said firmly, looking back at the mysterious trapdoor. Dana researches, Gareth listens for rumors, and I'll pay the Baron a visit. Just be careful, Gareth said quietly, his voice dropping so only she could hear. Thornhaven isn't someone to underestimate. The genuine concern in his eyes made Kaela's heart skip. For a moment, she was tempted to reach for his hand, to bridge the gap that had grown between them over the years. I will, she promised instead. We'll meet back here tomorrow before the auction, hopefully with answers. Chapter 4. The sun hung low in the afternoon sky, casting a warm golden glow over Embervale's market district as Kaela made her way through the bustling streets. She'd decided to take the scenic route to the royal quarter, partly to clear her head before confronting Baron Thornhaven, but mostly because she couldn't resist the sensory delights of the marketplace. Cinder glided beside her, occasionally perching on her shoulder, her tail curled protectively around Kaela's neck. You're just hoping for treats, aren't you? Kaela murmured, scratching the small dragon under her chin. Cinder's eyes closed in contentment, a small puff of smoke escaping her nostrils. The market pulsed with life around them. Merchants called out their wares, their voices blending into the symphony of Embervale. A blacksmith's hammer striking an anvil, a string quartet playing near the fountain, the excited chatter of children gathering around a toy vendor. The scent of fresh bread mingled with exotic spices and the earthy fragrance of leather goods. Kaela paused at a fruit stall, admiring the perfect pyramid of shining red apples. The vendor, an elderly woman with knowing eyes, smiled and pressed one into her hand. For luck, dearie, she said with a wink. Word travels fast about your plans for Emberhaven Lodge. I do hope you get it. Kaela felt warmth spreading across her cheeks that had nothing to do with her fire magic. Thank you, she said, tucking the apple into her satchel as Cinder eyed it hungrily. As they rounded the corner into Ironforge Row, the sharp tang of hot metal and coal filled the air. The rhythmic clanging of hammers grew louder, and sparks flew from open-air forges like tiny golden stars. And there, leaning against the doorframe of his shop, was Brom Steelstrike, polishing what appeared to be a newly forged sword. The weaponsmith's massive frame filled the doorway, his bald head gleaming in the sunlight. Despite his intimidating size, his eyes crinkled with warmth when he spotted Kaela. Well, if it isn't my favorite fire mage, he called, setting aside his polishing cloth. Come to commission a battle spatula for your new tavern? Kaela laughed, changing course to approach his forge. Don't tempt me. You know how serious I am about my pastries. Brahm's shop was a marvel of organized chaos. Weapons of all shapes and sizes hung from the walls, each one bearing his signature blend of practical craftsmanship and subtle enchantment. The heat from his forge hit Kaela like a wave, though it never bothered her much. Fire was her element, after all. Heard you're going after that old place by the ley line, Brahm said, gesturing for her to come inside. Brave move. The place has been nothing but trouble for years. That's what makes it interesting, Kaela replied, watching as Cinder explored the shop, sniffing curiously at various metal implements. Besides, the connection to the ley line is perfect for my baking. Magic-infused pastries are my specialty. Brahm guffawed, his deep laugh echoing off the stone walls. Just what Embervale needs. Magical sugar rushes for the adventure-minded folk. He picked up a small dagger, testing its balance with practiced ease. Speaking of trouble, have you noticed the squirrel situation lately? Kaela groaned. Don't get me started. They raided my test kitchen yesterday. 3 loaves of enchanted cinnamon bread, gone. Clever little beasts. Brahm nodded sagely. I found one trying to make off with a steel ingot last week. What it planned to do with it, I'll never know. Maybe build tiny armor? Kaela suggested. Or open a competing forge. Brahm countered, his eyes twinkling. You know, you could put them to work in your tavern. Imagine the novelty. Squirrel servers delivering pastries. They'd probably only steal half of them. Kaela snorted. Brilliant business model. Come enjoy some mana-boosting coffee where the service is nutty and the staff might run up your arm. Cinder chirped in what sounded suspiciously like agreement, having climbed onto a shelf to inspect a row of gleaming daggers. Careful with those, little one, Brahm warned the dragon. They might not be as sharp as your claws, but they'll cut all the same. A sudden gust of wind blew through the open door of the forge, carrying with it a flurry of autumn leaves. And as if summoned by their conversation, a small gang of bushy-tailed troublemakers. 4 gray squirrels darted into the shop, chittering excitedly as they scattered in different directions. Speak of the devils, Brahm exclaimed, lunging for one that was attempting to scale his wall of hammers. Kaela felt magic tingling at her fingertips but resisted the urge to cast. Fire spells and crowded weapon shops weren't the best combination. Instead, she grabbed an empty bucket, trying to trap one particularly bold squirrel that had leapt onto her workbench. Cinder, startled by the invasion, let out an indignant squawk as the largest of the squirrels, a battle-scarred veteran with half a tail, leapt onto her back. The tiny dragon spun in circles, trying to dislodge her unwanted passenger, but the squirrel held fast, reaching for Cinder's most prized possession. The tiny golden spoon she wore draped across her neck. Oh, no you don't. Kaela lunged forward as Cinder let out a jet of flame that singed the tip of the squirrel's remaining tail fur. The squirrel chittered what sounded remarkably like a laugh before launching itself toward the ceiling beams, the golden spoon clutched in its tiny paws. Cinder let out a mournful cry, wings flapping frantically as she gave chase, knocking over a display of ceremonial daggers in the process. Sorry, Kaela called to Brahm as she climbed onto his workbench for better height. Cinder's had that spoon since before she met me. Brahm, who had captured 2 squirrels under an upturned bucket, waved dismissively. This is the most excitement I've had all week. After a chaotic minute of pursuit, Kaela managed to corner the thieving squirrel. With a quick gesture, she created a tiny wall of harmless flames that startled it into dropping its prize. Cinder swooped in, snatching the spoon midair with a triumphant chirp. The squirrels, sensing the game was up, made for the door in a unified rush, darting between Brahm's legs and disappearing into the street. Well, Brahm said, straightening his apron, I may have to reconsider my squirrel apprenticeship program. They both burst into laughter, Kaela leaning against the workbench as Cinder settled on her shoulder, clutching her recovered treasure protectively. After helping Brahm restore order to his shop, Kaela checked the position of the sun and sighed. I should get going. I have a meeting at the royal quarter. Brahm's expression grew serious. Thornhaven business? Kaela nodded. Just gathering information before the auction tomorrow. Be careful with that one, Brom warned, handing her a small metal token stamped with his maker's mark. For luck? He added with a wink that mirrored the fruit vendor's earlier gesture. Bidding Brom farewell, Kaela and Cinder continued their journey, the atmosphere shifting subtly as they approached the royal quarter. The cobblestone streets became smoother, the buildings taller and more imposing. Common folk gave way to nobles and officials in fine clothes, carrying enchanted scrolls and speaking in hushed, important tones. In the distance, Castle Emberlight rose against the sky, its white stone towers gleaming in the late afternoon sun. Blue banners emblazoned with the royal crest fluttered from its ramparts, and Kaela could see the faint shimmer of protective enchantments surrounding its walls. The weight of what she was about to do settled on her shoulders. Baron Thornhaven was a powerful man with connections throughout Embervale, not someone to confront lightly. Kaela took a deep breath, drawing strength from the memory of Brom's laughter and the chaos of the squirrel invasion. With a deep sigh, she gazed at Cinder. Well, here goes nothing, girl. Let's hope luck is on our side.